Even though it has a manifesto published in 1886 in Parisian Le Figaro by poet Jean Mauriac, Symbolism is not a strictly defined movement. It consists of individuals living throughout Europe and of various ages working in different styles and techniques. However, writers, intellectuals, and artists of Symbolism collectively champion suggesting ideas through art rather than describing appearances. Symbolist artists advocated turning inward to the worlds of dream and imagination, thought and feeling. The invisible world in its experience took precedence over the everyday visible reality and naturalism, which were related to materialism and the degeneration of contemporary society. In a sort of escapism, Symbolist artists plunged into themselves and recreated the particular states of the human soul. Born in Lyon in 1824, Pierre-Cécile Puvis de Chavannes took up painting relatively late in life. He studied literature and mathematics before entering the École Polytechnique in Paris to pursue a career in his father's footsteps as an engineer in the French army. In a change of heart, Chavannes decided to devote himself to painting in 1846. He went on to study under Eugène Delacroix and Thomas Couture. From this early period, one of his drawings appeared in the Salon of 1850. In 1881, after several rejections from Salon, Puvis de Chavannes completed The Poor Fisherman, one of his best-known works. This work, remarkable as much for its composition as for its mood, earned him the title of forerunner to the Symbolist artists. Puvis de Chavannes achieved public recognition mainly through his fresco commissions, particularly for the Musée de Picardie in Amiens, the Pantheon and the Sorbonne in Paris. More symbolic in form than in subject matter, his work had an aura of mystical timelessness that transported the viewer to an ethereal realm. Chavannes participated in the founding of the National Society of Fine Art and served as its chairman, next to Eugène Delacroix and Carrière-Belleuse. At the time of his death in Paris on the 24th of October 1898, Pierre Puvis de Chavannes was considered one of the greatest 19th century French artists. Born in 1827 in Basel, Switzerland, Arnold Bucklin began his artistic training while residing in Germany, entering the academy in Düsseldorf at 19. His master promptly advised him to continue his education in Brussels and Paris and proceed to Rome. Once in Italy, he copied the old masters and developed his highly individual art, taking the Roman countryside as the inspiration for his many landscapes. Simultaneously majestic and sad, these works invariably provoke deep melancholy and longing as Villa by the Sea. In 1880, Bucklin completed the first version of the Isle of the Dead. Within 6 years, he would complete 5 variations of this painting, now considered his most influential work. As with many of his works, the scene source is found in the classical world, but the image is completely fictional, a product of the artist's imagination. During his life, Bucklin's works greatly influenced younger Symbolist artists. After he died in 1901, Bucklin already had a cult of personality behind him, with his works being praised for their universal value. In the 1920s, his artistic influence emerged again in the works of surrealists, such as Salvador Dali, Max Ernst, and Giorgio de Chirico. Gustave Moro was born in Paris in 1828, where his artistic career primarily unfolded. Moro made his first trip to Italy in 1841, and afterward frequented the private studio of painter François-Edouard Picot, a decorator of public monuments and Parisian churches. These experiences made him a suitable applicant for admission to the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris, which he applied to in 1846. However, he soon left in 1849 after a failed attempt to win the Prix de Rome. In 1876, when he exhibited The Apparition at the Paris Salon, the public and critics finally opened their eyes to the beauty of his work. Several themes are common in Moreau's art: the importance of imagination and artistic creation, as well as the use of Christian symbols and figures interacting with pagan elements. He depicted femme fatale women and androgynous men in line with fin de siècle aesthetics. In 1888, he was elected to the Académie des Beaux-Arts, then appointed professor at École des Beaux-Arts in 1892. Gustave Moro died in Paris in 1898 as a renowned painter. Edward Burne-Jones was born in Birmingham in 1833. He was educated at the Exeter College, Oxford, where he studied theology. There he met William Morris, and 2 years later, having discovered the work of the painter Dante Gabriel Rossetti, the two friends went to live in London. Burne-Jones had decided to become a painter, and Morris an architect. Taking his inspiration from Romantic literature, Burne-Jones started working on pencil and ink drawings and watercolors. Under the guidance of Rossetti, Burne-Jones joined the Brotherhood of the Pre-Raphaelites but developed a distinctive style. His work transcended Pre-Raphaelite and Italian influences into a subtle mixture of Romanticism and Symbolism. Always looking for inspiration in literature, myths, and medieval legend, Burne-Jones applied himself, particularly to depicting figures he often observed from nature. Line and form took precedence over colour, and the tones of his canvases were often softened, sometimes resulting in a faded appearance. He became a Royal Academy of Arts member in 1885 but resigned in 1893. 2 years later, he was knighted by Queen Victoria. Having become a significant artist of his era known throughout Europe, he died in London in 1898. Bertrand-Jean Redon, called Udon, one of the most original Symbolist artists, was born on the 20th of April 1840 in Bordeaux. Spending most of his childhood isolated in rural France, Redon created his first drawings and charcoals. However, it was no doubt his journey to Paris and his visits to Parisian museums when he was 7 years old that persuaded Redon to choose a career as an artist. Pursuing architectural studies hardly changed Redon's plans in the least, but it all contributed to the development of his skill at drawing and his lifelong attention to detail. From 1855, Redon took drawing classes under the guidance of Stanislas Gorin, who led him to discover the art of Millet, Corot, and even Gustave Moro. In 1863, Redon met Rodolphe Breton, who introduced him to the art of printmaking, and in particular, the etching technique. Redon completed various albums and illustrations, primarily of Romantic and Symbolist texts, including Baudelaire's Fleurs du Mal. His noir compositions are significant for their expressive and suggestive possibilities of monochromatic works. After the turn of the 20th century and conquering health problems, the artist evolved his art to use clear and bright colours, discarding the sombre subject of his early work. Udon Redon died in Paris in 1916 at 76, leaving behind a considerable body of work as his legacy. The Nabis would claim ownership of this legacy, and the Symbolist artists would draw on it as a source. Eugène Carrière was born in Gournay-sur-Marne on 16th of January 1849. He attended the design school in Strasbourg from the age of 13, entering a lithography studio in 1864. Carrière grew up in Strasbourg but would go on to Paris to enroll in the École des Beaux-Arts in 1869. In Paris, Carrière frequented the studio of academic painter Alexandre Cabanel. His style began to evolve in the 1880s, and he freed himself of the academic influences stemming from his previously received education. In 1890, he participated in the Société Nationale des Beaux-Arts Salon and took up lithography again. It was no doubt at this time that Carrière produced a personal style. From then on, his works were characterized by monochrome, stylized detail, and sometimes distorted elements. Carrière participated in the debates of his time, particularly during the Dreyfus Affair, where he sided with Émile Zola, and on the subject of the emancipation of women. In 1898, he opened a studio in which Duran and Matisse, among others, studied. Suffering from throat cancer, Carrière underwent surgery that left him paralyzed and unable to talk during the last year of his life before dying in Paris on the 27th of March in 1906. Fernand Kof was born in Grembergen-Lestremont, Belgium in 1858. He studied at the Faculty of Law at the Université Libre in Brussels, but after 1 year, he moved to the city's Royal Academy of Fine Arts. Kof painted his first Symbolist works in 1882, inspired by the writings of Gustave Flaubert. In 1887, Kof completed the enigmatic portrait of his youngest sister, Marguerite, which he always kept with him. As a woman who was both pure and sexually attractive, in the eyes of the painter, she represented a type of feminine ideal. It was she who Kof depicted several times in his masterpiece Memories, painted in the subsequent years. He is known for the soft tonalities of his colours that increase the viewer's experience of nostalgia and detachment. Kof also showed several mysterious, erotic drawings which served among other things as frontpieces to the writings of the Belgian symbolists Zwiheren, Rodenbach, Joséphine Péladan and Grégoire Leroy. Fernand Kof, the painter of closed eyes, died in Brussels on the 12th of November 1921 as an essential representative of the Symbolist movement. Johannes Theodor Turup, known as Jan Turup, was born in Java, Indonesia in 1858. In 1863, the Turup family moved to the island of Bangka in southern Sumatra. Upon returning to the Netherlands in 1869, Jan Turup attended secondary schools in Leiden and Winterswijk. In 1881, he continued his education at the Academy of Amsterdam before moving to Brussels in 1882, where he enrolled in the Academy of Decorative Arts. Turup also made several trips to England where he discovered the works of the pre-Raphaelites. His art would henceforth appear symbolist, primarily because of his interest in Gesamtkunstwerk, total work of art, and the frequent use of mythological subjects. Turup developed a highly individual, linear style even among other symbolist artists, combining Javanese motifs with symbolist influences. He produced expressive drawings of convict fishermen, before turning to religious subjects in 1908. Turup died in 1928 in The Hague, leaving behind an extensive body of work in different directions. Born in Lutton in 1863, Edvard Munch grew up in the Norwegian capital of Christiania, now known as Oslo. In 1881, he enrolled in the Royal College of Art and Design under the direction of the sculptor Julius Middleton, where he gradually turned to painting. Munch's canvases were marked by the profound personal torments that haunted the painter and gave birth to his expressionism. Munch's works were often symbolic indications of his emotions and feelings. In 1893, he started working on The Frieze of Life, a series of 4 canvases, including paintings The Voice, The Scream, Anxiety, and The Ashes, and made several prints and drawings. In the series, Munch uses a new innovative technique which appeared unfinished to most of the public. He uses the art forms not as a decoration but as a vehicle for profound psychological revelation and to deal with the themes of love, illness, and death. Despite health problems, Munch entered a productive period at the dawn of the 20th century and experienced significant success, particularly at the Exposition of Prague in 1905. Munch led a solitary life of seclusion before dying on the 23rd of January 1944, leaving his complete oeuvre to Oslo. Born in Copenhagen in 1863, Jens Ferdinand Williamson entered the city's Royal Academy of Fine Arts in 1881. Williamson took architecture classes simultaneously and later sharpened his technique under the painter Pierre Curie. In 1888, he made his first trip to France, where he found the culture of the fin de siècle Paris highly inspiring. There he discovered the work of the symbolist Udon Redon through Theo van Gogh. Williamson's fame grew after the 1900 Universal Exposition in Paris, where he exhibited Jotunheim. It is a work of masterful geometricized symbolism in which sculpture combines perfectly with a painting, particularly in the intensity of the canvas and its frame. Painted between 1892 and 1893 after a stay in Norway, the work was very popular with the public. Painting was Williamson's preferred means of expression, but he explored different visual art forms and techniques throughout his career. Additionally, his style was constantly changing and following the various aesthetic trends of the period. Williamson adapted his themes, simultaneously becoming naturalist, symbolist, and expressionist. Jens Ferdinand Williamson died in Caen, France in 1958 at the age of 85.